Hey, welcome back, or welcome if it's your first time. As you know, on this channel, we talk about how in life it's not only me and it's not only you, but life's ups and the downs are universal. And when we go through those trying times, those times that are considered the downs, we can get strength, have compassion on ourselves, and we can grow. And when we go through those times that are the ups and so joyous and wonderful, we can be present in them and fully embrace them and enjoy them. Beautiful butterfly. Oh, there's another one. Yes, so today I thought it'd be great to kind of dive into ourselves, our full, complete self. And that kind of led me to look at this quote, and I'll read it to you. It says, a man or woman should not strive to eliminate his or her complexes, but to get into accord with them. They are legitimately what directs his or her conduct in the world. And I looked for kind of like just the breakdown of what that quote meant. And I found an explanation. And it says that if someone has a complex related to the feelings of inadequacy, instead of trying to deny or eliminate that feeling, like we do sometimes, they should explore the roots. And that's why sometimes it's good to ask, why do I feel this? Why am I feeling like this? Because there's more than likely, there's a reason why, we feel the way we feel, or we think the things we think, or um, have unsettling emotions. There's usually a reason for them. And so it was saying that it could be childhood experiences. And then it said the key part is understanding how it affects your behavior in various situations. And this understanding can lead to more conscious and adaptive responses. So you'll be aware of the response that you should give or that you should make, versus just reacting. But there instead being some intention and awareness with your responses. So this led me to going into I don't know if you've heard of it, but Sigmund Freud, the id, the ego, and the superego. And the id, or your ID, is the primal, natural, whatever you think to do part of you. That's what the id is. And then the superego is everything that you've been influenced by, everything that's coming from your outside world, your influences, people's things that have shaped you, norms, societal norms, the standards, and then that's the superego. And then your ego is kind of like a little bit of your natural primal self, and then some of the societal influences that you've that you had planted in you. So let me give you a better breakdown on the id. Into that. So the id lives in your unconscious mind, and it's driven by your instincts, your desires, as well as pleasure. And I think of this as like a kid eating the dessert first. As an adult, maybe you skipping out on some of your responsibilities, indulging in something without thinking ahead. So maybe it's like you have a day where you're just gonna gorge and eat excessively, right? In that instance, that would be you not thinking ahead, because you did say you wanted to work on your fitness goals. And that's probably going to set you back quite a bit. So that's the id. Okay, so we got the id as the impulsive child. Now the superego, you can correlate that to the rigid or strict parent. And this is the morality, goes by the rules, your ideal self. This is, who, if in a perfect world, this is your ideal self. I do this, I do that, I don't do this. An example would be feeling guilt when you break a rule, being your perfect self, or someone that always does the right thing. That's the strict parent. And then going into the ego can be viewed as the mediator because the ego is a blend of those two. So you balance out those id desires, pleasures, impulsive things with the reality from the strict parent. So somebody might want to just eat candy and chocolate and whatever else all day, right? But then your strict parent side says, well, that's not really realistic. I can't eat I can't eat sugar and candy all day because that's not a balanced diet. I'm not gonna get what I need. I'll be malnourished. So that's kind of the breakdown of how that works. And then in life, that's a good example, but in life we balance between those two, right? So you might, your id wants to stay in bed all day, and your super ego knows that they should wake up very early. And you find a balance between those with the help of your ego. Another example is spending money versus saving money. And you could swap out saving money with investing. So spending money versus investing, or some people spending money versus saving money. But it just depends on what it is that your ideal self knows you should do, and then what is the impulsive desire thing that you want to do, but you're trying to find a balance within that. And then this one hits home for me. Holding your tongue versus speaking your mind. And you have to know when it's fitting to do either one. But the superego might want to speak its mind all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time. No, reverse. The id might want to speak its mind all the time, all the time, all the time, right? And then the superego is, no, hold your tongue. Don't say that. Don't, be mindful of your words, and so forth. So the ego is me finding a balance between the impulse and the complete, complete silence. So trying to find a balance between those two. So those are some realistic examples of what the id, the ego, and the superego look like in your everyday life. And I want to dive into why it matters for your self-awareness to be aware of the impulsive kid, the strict parent, and the mediator. And what role do they play in your everyday life as you're walking around functioning, being an adult, being you? What role do you notice that they play in your life, in your everyday situations? Okay, so when it comes to the self-awareness that these different identities or different personas play, it helps me recognize, why am I making these decisions? What inner forces, what inner reasons, what inner impulses, what inner morality complex, what inner balance am I trying to work with or fight against when I'm making just life decisions? And understanding that if I strengthen my ego, which there's the id, the impulsive, kid, then there's the superego, which is the strict parent, and the ego is in between. But if I strengthen my ego, then I can have a balance, a better balance, where I'm not super impulsive and I'm not super rigid, but I can strike up, a decent balance there, just to have an overall improved quality of life. And I'm sure you see the visual and you can see, those everyday examples, the role as I've been talking through it, and just really getting a good grasp on how that impacts your everyday life. So hopefully this was helpful. I will link that visual that I've shared in the video just so you can see it. And it can be a reminder. You can screenshot it, but it can be a reminder for when you are, just going through your everyday life and you think about, why did I make that decision? And it goes back to that quote that we read at the beginning, but whenever you have certain feelings, really asking yourself, why do I feel that? Because there's a reason why we feel the things we feel. There's a reason why we think the things we think. But just being aware when we are facing situations. And I want to leave you with some reflective questions, and I'm going to ask them. You can pause and answer them for yourself, or you can write them down. Writing can be helpful, but you can also just think through it. So the first one is, when was the last time my id took over and what happened? So when was the last time, and remember, the id is the impulsive kid. When's the last time your id took over, and what was the result of that? What was the outcome? What happened from that situation? The next question: what does my superego often say to me? This is with like rules, guilt, expectations. What are the things that your id is constantly saying to you? What are you hearing your id say, where you feel the judgment or the correction or the rules? You feel that strict parent voice. What is it saying to you? And then the last one is, how can I strengthen my ego to create more balance in my choices? So if it's the constant critique or criticism, or the constant, I don't want to say wilding out, the constant like impulsiveness, what is something that I can do to strengthen my ego to create more balance in my choices, in my life choices? And those are really good reflective questions to really get a good understanding of the id, the ego, and the superego. So, like I said, take a look at the description box down below just to see some of the supporting items or materials. And there is a guy that has his pet in a bubble thing. I don't know if you can see, but I couldn't. It didn't work out. Okay. But anyways, yeah, so let me know what you got from today's video. You can leave me a comment, please. Please like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and you can share it with somebody. If you thought this was enlightening and you feel like you have a better grasp of the id, the ego, and the superego, that would be amazing. Yeah, but thank you so much for watching this video. I know there's so much else you could be looking at and spending your time doing, but you are watching this video here with me, looking at each other. Technically, I'm looking at the camera and you're looking at me, so we're looking at each other. But thank you so much for watching this. I do appreciate you. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.